YouTube has some funny moments. It has some epic moments. It also has some somber moments, and it also has sad moments. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who look at the saddest moments for a lot of people out there. It's like they look at all the like YouTubers who passed away. Grant from King of Random, him passing away was sudden and just completely unexpected. Technoblade was another one. Etika was another one. People, or Total Biscuit, that was one that hit really hard for me. And then, of course, there's also times where YouTubers realize that, everything that they've been doing has benefited them greatly, but do they see themselves doing it forever? And here's the thing I'll say. In terms of, I look at MatPat, for instance. MatPat, his retirement wasn't really sad as much as it was, it had sad moments, but overall I would say it's more celebratory of what he's built. And he basically rode off into the sunset with very minimal controversies, very minimal, like big issues or anything like that. But then you look at nowadays with the Mr. Beast situation, and that is very slowly developing into something that's just undeniably bad. And then of course, also, did you hear that Dr. Disrespect made a comeback post on Twitter, basically just declaring he was back? And I'm just like, oh boy. This can only go bad, and it's gonna get bad. And now all this in the midst of the Mr. Beast thing, there's a lot of just controversies and stuff swirling around. And in the midst of all this, there's stuff that I look back on in terms of YouTube, and I'm like, over 10 years on this platform, over 10 years of doing this, and I've witnessed some tremendous rises and meteoric falls. And sometimes it's sad when you see some of your favorite creators go away. I know I was more sad about it than you were, but Rooster Teeth, company that gave us Red vs. Blue, Ruby, Let's Play, brought us great content throughout the years, shutting their doors after 21 years, and it's just damn. How did they mess that up? And just seeing all of the originals sitting on the couch, sitting there knowing that their days were numbered, and it's just wow. What do you say? What can you say about it except for just it's a sad time, because you know that nothing lasts forever.
That's why I try not to cling on to things that I know are headed for an inevitable demise.
Yeah.
So I acknowledge that Rooster Teeth was pretty much dead to me, back after Monty passed away.
Yeah.
A lot of people hung on to him for a very long time, and I was like, they do worse and worse things every day. They're eventually going to be just implode from it, and that's absolutely what happened. So.
I remember 2015 was when my faith was shaken in them, and then throughout the next few years, up until about it was around 2019 where I just said that I just lost interest. I lost interest in early 2019, and I unsubscribed from all their channels. I got rid of my Rooster Teeth First membership, and I basically I was just I'm not supporting this anymore because I'm not having fun. And it's obvious to see that the people in the videos aren't having fun anymore, so why would I support this? And of course, I look at the things that did work, the things that were working, Death Battle, for instance, which I'm ecstatic that Death Battle did their Kickstarter, and not only did they reach their goal in 21 minutes, they have reached an amazing amount through the support that they have garnered and it's just unbelievable where they stand right now. And I'm happy. I'm happy that they have achieved their goal, and not only that, but they've gone above and beyond, and they're now going to officially own like the rights to Death Battle. Like the creators are going to own it, and it's not going to be through a big conglomerate like AT&T or Time Warner or even Fullscreen. It's going to be theirs, and there are great successes out there, and I'm truly happy about that. I am, but yeah, there's also like all these other channels out there like Donut Media. Donut Media is going through big changes because a lot of their talent are leaving because the channel got bought out by a big media conglomerate, and they told them instead of focusing on projects that they were passionate about, they instead told them, "Oh, we only want you to focus on like the stuff that we know will go viral and the stuff that we know that will make us the most money." And from that, a bunch of people from Donut Media have just called it quits because it's not worth it anymore. And it sucks because I liked Donut Media for a long time. They were like one of my favorite car YouTube channels, and now I don't know what to say anymore except just, damn. It's sad to see things end, but at the same time, to know that the people who did Donut Media and were part of Donut Media are continuing in their own way, and not only that, but the fandom has gotten behind them entirely, and it's awesome. But Sunny V2 has a video here talking about the saddest moments in YouTube history. I'm probably going to know some of these, but at the same time, maybe I won't. So let's see which ones make the list. Here we go.
From Jake Paul to Joe Rogan, these are YouTube's saddest moments, with Linus Tech Tips starting our list with this iconic live stream. He was supposed to be celebrating 10 million subs, yet Linus began the stream with a pretty somber tone.
So yeah, I don't know how it all happened. I've got this following of literally 10 million, and it kind of feels like luck sometimes. I'm probably more like you guys than you realize.
He'd talk about the pressure his work put on his family.
I mean, every time my wife would ask me, how long do we need to keep doing these kinds of hours? Like, how long do we need to keep pushing like this before we can just back off and like have a life? I started with, hey, look, I'm gonna slow down when we have kids. And I said, hey, thanks for basically soloing our first kid. Tell you what, I'll slow down when we have a second one. And then I said I'd slow down when they're old enough to remember that daddy was always working. And then I said I'd slow down when they got to the age where they really need parent involvement to help them with their homework or their sports club or whatever else.
With a story about Make-A-Wish, then bringing Linus to tears.
I had a pretty life-changing experience a little while ago. The kid in question was too sick to travel, and they asked if I could record a personalized video for him. So I picked up my phone, I pointed at myself, and I just tried to think of something to say, and I couldn't. And I looked at their guidelines, and it had just the most useless stuff in it. It was like, be upbeat, and don't talk about death. And I was just like, this kid's 12. He's like dying of leukemia. What? Last thing I can do right now is be upbeat. The only thought going through my head is like, everyone and everything I know is gonna die. All I could see in the photo album was my kids. The whole thing made me question why I'm doing this.
Ironically, the thumbnail became a viral meme, leading to comments such as, came for the memes, left with emotions, I'm not crying, I'm just water cooling my eyes.
I saw that live stream, and I gotta be honest, I tuned in expecting him to be like chipper and cheerful and thank everyone, and he did thank a lot of people who helped bring him, like Luke, his writing staff, the editing team, Dennis, all of them. And for him to go into that story, it made me just realize, again, there's so much going on in Linus's life that he doesn't have control over, and it's because he's so hands-on with the creative input on Linus Tech Tips. And that's why he handed it over. He stepped down to CEO, I think it was like last year, and he handed it over to someone else whom he trusted and he'd worked with in the past for like a decade. And ever since then, Linus has actually been able to take time off to spend with his family, have projects that he can do with his family, and he's been able to enjoy life more. And he's basically not gonna retire anymore. Like, a lot of people were worried that he was going to just, like, call it quits. But ever since then, he's worked on, like, his familial stuff, and it's made him a much happier person. And I'm happy to see that for Linus, because though he has had his issues in the past with, like, certain controversies, I will say this, he is one of the most clean-nosed YouTubers out there. And I always go to him for, like, tech news and tech updates and stuff like that. I trust him and his teams. Like I trust their opinions more than most. But anyway.
And Where Men Cried. 9. Bradley Martin. Brad
Oh,
lost
boy.
his dad at the age of only 6, which is understandably something he struggles to talk about.
That's the thing, you know, when I think about my dad.
Although the saddest example was during his podcast with Tyler Perry.
I don't want to cry. But why would you even hold it? However it feels, you should let it out. Don't do that, man. Let it out how it comes.
Brad was thanking Tyler for some advice he'd given earlier.
People get so caught up at where they're at and in the moment of like the negative and the darkness and the evil, and they don't see the light. It wasn't as simple as what I thought it was then, which was my father didn't love me.
Yeah.
And I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And I built up so many walls and who I was. It's crazy looking back now how much it affected even my personal relationships, my intimate relationships, my relationships with my family, friends, everything.
And was able to end the moment with an excellent silver lining.
Everything that we go through, every hardship, every downfall is going to be a new opportunity to learn and to grow and to become better.
8. Joe Rogan. On episode 1123 of the
Oh,
Joe Rogan
man.
Experience, he and
I know
Kevin
this
Smith
one.
were talking about their pets when Joe passively mentioned he saw a veterinarian cry.
He's the only vet I've ever had cry with me.
Over what animal?
I had a puppy that had distemper. Ah, man, the puppy just, after like a couple of days of being at the house, would have these seizures, like violent seizures. And then towards the end, it was having them all day long.
As a result of the dog's condition, it had to be put down.
I held the dog, I placed him down, I gave him a kiss, I said goodbye. And he put the needle in the dog and put the dog to sleep. Then we both went outside, man. He was just crying, just weeping. He was killed by a drunk driver.
The vet was?
Yeah, that was a rough one. I got an email, I believe, from his daughter. Super good dude, man.
Leading Kevin to share a similar story.
It's such a weird relationship where one day you're like, I love you to death and I love you so much I have to kill you. And that last fucking hour was like probably hands down the most difficult hour of my life, man, because we all knew what was coming. And you're programmed to stop that at all costs. You're programmed to keep people around, keep yourself around.
7. Loaf. As a YouTube prankster, it seemed as though Loaf
Yeah, that episode was a hard one for me to watch, or for me to listen to, because I remembered I can't remember the exact year it was, but it made me think of Bella, my mom's dog, who, again, sweetest dog you'd ever know, man. Never knew an enemy. She was always just so, like, ready to be everybody's friend, and it just, man, it just ripped my heart out whenever. I remember we took her to the vet, and I remember I sat there beside Mom with Bella, and we basically were petting her, and Bella knew it was her time. She knew it was almost her time, because she wasn't able to really walk around anymore. Her joints were just not able to carry her around anymore, and she was starting to get really, really bad. And I just remember as she was laying there on the table, she laid her head down, and when she did that, I just petted her, and then she shut her eyes, and then she like nudged my hand to like keep petting her, and I was just like, oh man. And then I remember when they put her down, me and Mom both were just like a sobbing mess. It was actually just up the road from here at the veterinary clinic, just at exit, or just off one of the exits, and I just remember like walking out of there, and you know those moments where you just realize that's when that's gonna stick with you. That was one. That was one that I knew, like, right here. it would always be there. And I still got the pictures of Bella's final moments on my phone. I look back on them every now and again, and and then of course Lulu, that was another one as well. You know, me having to basically like carry her like out, and I tried to take her to the same veterinary clinic, and they were closed because it was Memorial Day, and I couldn't do anything. So I did everything I could. I tried to drive her to the next one, which was like 45 minutes away, and nothing. And I remembered I got to that veterinary clinic that was still open, and by that time she passed, and I carried her in, and they told me that they would handle the cremation and everything, and I just thinking back on that, it's just oof. It hurts, dude. That shit hurts.
Was always having fun. So when he'd post a video titled YouTube Saved My Life with a depressing thumbnail and the following intro,
failure, loser, and loner are the 3 words that I would use to describe myself.
It seemed the audience was in for something different. Loaf began by stating he had a tough time growing up.
High school was a hard time for me. I was really insecure. I was really unsure of myself. I got bullied pretty bad.
And thought that starting YouTube would help to keep him safe.
If I can make them laugh, then they're not gonna hurt me.
However, Loaf struggled to find success.
For a while, it was just terrible. Nothing was happening. I would be embarrassed when people would ask me what I did.
Even feeling like a failure in the presence of his parents.
My parents have never understood the YouTube thing. That's probably the hardest part, because it's just every kid wants to make their parents proud. You know what I mean?
Since then, however, Loaf has found massive success, recently announcing he was able to buy a house.
And I was able to buy it 100% with cash, which was also a big goal of mine.
6. Syndicate. Similar to Linus, Syndicate was part of the Make-A-Wish program, being chosen by a kid named Alec for them to spend a day together. This resulted in a video titled Making His Wish Come True, in which they flew in a helicopter and became extremely close.
Give me a high five. Did you enjoy the helicopter ride then?
Syndicate inspired Alec to open his own channel.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much for over 200 subscribers already. That's pretty crazy.
However, just 43 days later, Syndicate made a tragic announcement.
They gave me permission to be able to let you guys know that unfortunately he did lose his battle, and now he's in a better place because he really wasn't in a good spot, so thank you so much.
5. Kai Sanat. Kai was trying to become Twitch's most subscribed streamer, setting a goal of 80,000 to overtake XQC. When he reached the milestone in late 2022, he almost couldn't handle it.
80,000 is crazy.
I saw a clip of this, and it just,
80,000 is crazy.
But getting a supportive call from his mum sent Kai over the edge.
Hold on, my mom calling me.
Congratulations, son. You're number 1. And we watching and we're so proud of you, everybody. Babe, I love you so much. Babe, I'm so proud of you. You're number 1. And you my son. And I'm so happy to be your mom. And I just want to let the world know that you've been working hard like this for a long time. So he just only now knows. He's just finding out. My son works hard. He's a grinder every day, every night.
You number 1.
Stuff like this gets me worse than the sadder stuff.
Yeah, that you see. Here's what I'll say about this moment. It reminded me of the time when I started doing YouTube. I had doubters, and some of the doubters that I had were family members, specifically my parents. My mom was more supportive, but my dad wasn't. my dad didn't understand. My mom didn't really either, but she believed that I could do it if I kept at it. And then I remembered when I paid off all of my college student loans, and I basically was making more money doing this than I was working my regular job. And then I quit my regular job to start doing this full time. I remembered I told mom, and mom was excited. She was like, "That's amazing. I'm glad I'm glad that you pulled that off, that you've made more doing that than you have at your regular job. That's amazing. And then I called Dad, and Dad was once again doubtful, just like you're making a big mistake, son. You like, it's all well and good to have that on the side, but you need a regular job, like something stable, something that you know is going to be there. And I'm just like, Dad, I just feel like I have to go for it. And he expressed doubt, but he understood that I was making a choice. And I think it was like about a year later when I had my own place and I was paying all my bills. I had money in my savings account. I had everything going. I remembered my dad. I talked to my dad, and he said that he didn't understand 100%, and maybe that was the problem. But seeing what I have achieved and seeing what I have now, my dad completely pulled a 180 and was 100% supportive of everything that I was doing. And I remembered my mom as well, she would always brag that, I was a YouTuber and I was making money doing YouTube. And then my dad started doing that as well. And he had his friends at work pester and be like, hey, how many subscribers your boy up to now? And then I was just hearing that, I was just like, man, that's just, that stuff right there, it gets me.
And you, my son, and I'm proud to be your mum. Man, straight tears right there. For Matthew Santoro, Nicole Arbor was his girlfriend, and they seemed like a healthy YouTube couple. However, 4 months after separating, Matthew uploaded a video titled My Abuse Story.
It's not something people ever talk about, but I feel compelled to because I was in an abusive relationship.
He began by explaining that Nicole was very controlling.
This individual that I was with was extremely jealous. I had to cut every female out of my life, out of social media, delete every number out of my phone.
Before adding he'd been hit by her in the middle of an argument.
This person prevented me from leaving their home and said, "You're not going anywhere." At which point I was hit in the face.
This caused Matthew to break down crying.
And it's something that men never talk about because we're made to believe that we're supposed to be strong. And I never talked about it because I thought that no one would believe me. No one would give a shit.
Leading to one of the saddest videos ever uploaded to YouTube.
There's people that love you and you don't need to be in that relationship. You don't need to be with someone that hates you and uses you and manipulates you to do everything that they want.
3. Jake Paul. In late 2019, Jake announced he was basically quitting YouTube to train for a boxing match he'd scheduled against Anderson Gibb. The fight became his sole focus for almost half a year, and while he would eventually win, Jake revealed on Logan's podcast his life felt meaningless after.
I win the fight, right? That was my sole focus and purpose. All of a sudden I get back to LA, I'm by myself, sitting in the fucking room, and I'm like, what do I do?
In addition to feeling directionless, Jake explained he was dealing with 4 different lawsuits.
And then I wake up the next day, have a phone call with my lawyers for one of the lawsuits for literally something I did not do. And it goes back to people just attacking Jake Paul and wanting to see me fail for literally fucking nothing. They're suing me for something I didn't do, on God. And then
you're good. Take a break.
Yeah, take a breather. We can sit for a second.
Which consumed not only his life but his family's as well.
My mom is spending hours of her day when she's retired. She's in Hawaii, and they're like, "Yo, your son has to pay this." It just so stupid.
2. Dan TDM. Dan's dog Ellie was a staple in his videos ever since he got her back in 2013. She helped Dan film reaction videos, fashion shows, and even Minecraft content, stealing the hearts of up to 30 million viewers. So when he'd upload a video titled Goodbye Ellie, Dan and his audience were totally devastated.
Yesterday, unfortunately, Ellie died.
He'd explain exactly how Ellie passed.
Stings even more because she went in for an infected tooth, so she had to go in for an operation and she just didn't wake up. Just before we got the phone call that happened, we were already planning how we were going to work out picking her up when when our operation is finished, and then you just get hit with that.
Calling the loss one of his most difficult challenges.
I know it's a dog, but for us, it's like it's a member of our family, and I'm very lucky. I haven't had a lot of loss in my life, so this is probably the one that's been the hardest. Like, my heart literally hurts.
Theo Von and Sean Strickland. There's been many a sad moment on Theo Von's podcast.
Oh yeah, dude. We cry on here every week. Sorry, dude. That's beautiful.
Yet few compare to episode.
Oh boy. I remember seeing the clip to this. I can't remember who shared it to me, but Sean Strickland, like, at this point was like, I can't remember if he was or was like in like the top 5, but he's like middleweight champ of the world in the UFC. Like, tough motherfucker, dude. Like, one of the toughest dudes you'll ever see. And here he is, like, and he's talking about like I'll just let it play, man. It's just
Number 476. Theo and Sean began discussing their childhoods.
I used to always sleep in my mom's room because I thought my dad was gonna kill my mom. So like I would like sleep by the door. I'd sleep
to make sure she was all right.
Yeah, I'd sleep under the bed. You know, I'd sleep by the door.
Yet Sean couldn't finish his story as it was simply too traumatic.
I remember when I stopped believing in God, man. Like I had fucking yeah, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bud.
So, man.
I'm sorry, buddy.
That's all good, dude.
We don't have to talk, man. I can just sit here with you for a minute. I can just sit here. We can just sit here.
Nah, it's all good, dude. It takes a second to just process it.
Leading Theo to comfort him by offering his own story.
And I remember being so scared when I was a kid. Like I was saying, like I remember hearing that like animal peed when another animal wouldn't come. So I would stand up on my bed at night and I would pee around my bed in a circle because I was afraid that things were gonna get me.
Who were you afraid? Like in particular, just
everything. I mean, I was just afraid of everything.
I love Theo, man.
Theo's a good dude. Theo's a goofball, and I'm glad that he's off cocaine now because he's more balanced, and it's not going to kill him. Now, he's probably done a lot of damage to himself physically because of it, but just the fact that he's cleaned up and he's going to be around longer because of that, I'm happy. Because a world without Theo Von, I think, is a less funny world. But also that story that Sean shared about just like not wanting to leave his mom alone and all that because he was afraid something bad would happen to her. You know, I've talked about like stuff that I've been through in my life with like my family and how there's been some rough spells for my mom and everything, and it's just, and there would be nights I wouldn't sleep. There would literally be nights that I would like be sitting up in my room and I would just be listening. I would just be listening outside the door, or I would like be listening to like through my door just to see and hear if like something bad was going on with her and Blake, or you know, if like she was on, she was having a bad time, and it's just, oh man, that's stuff to me. Like thinking back on that and just. And you know, the funny thing is, like, it was in this house. It was in this house here. Like, the room that Kate's staying in was my room. And the master bedroom where I'm at now was where Mom and Blake was. And there was times where I would hear like talking, then I'd hear arguing, and then I would hear stuff smashing. I'd go out there and they'd be throwing shit at each other, and I would get in the middle of it to try and stop it. And I remembered one time, like I told them like, this has to stop. Y'all are gonna kill each other. And then they said, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I do know what I'm talking about. This shit ain't normal. It's like y'all need help. Y'all need to stop doing all this shit and stop. And I remembered they both got mad at me, and they threw me out of the house. They threw me out of here. I didn't have anywhere to go.
And nobody will ever listen to that kind of stuff when they're already mad, unfortunately.
Not only mad, but also fucked up. Because that's the other thing too. They were both fucked up in their own way. But I remembered I didn't have anywhere to stay. Literally, I had nowhere to go. So I grabbed a sleeping bag out of the garage, and I had a storage unit. It was a storage unit that was like air conditioned, and I said like, okay, I guess I'm staying here. It was like one of those climate controlled ones, so I was like inside the building, and I shut the door and I locked it from the inside, and I just stayed in there. I stayed in there for 2 days. I slept in there for 2 days, and I just remembered, like, I tried to call my mom, like, the day after, no answer. Tried to call her the day after that, no answer. And then eventually Blake called me, and he told me to come back to the house. But I just remembered that was like, for me, a point where I just realized that I was powerless in the situation that they were in, because while I was like older, while I was like, I was still like, I was around high school age, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything because this was their house and they owned it, and basically
it's their bullshit to fix.
Exactly, and I was trying to put myself in the middle of it, and but from doing that, they basically kicked me out, and it sucks. Friggin' sucked. But anyway, man, yeah, those are some sad moments there. But I know that they mentioned like Technoblade, Etika, and like all the other YouTubers in a previous video. I think maybe that's why they weren't mentioned here. But that Kai Cenat one, I know that one.
Those seem to be all moments that didn't actually involve YouTubers who passed away. So.
Yeah, instead it was just like sad moments for YouTubers that didn't directly involve the YouTuber passing away, I guess. But that Kai Cenat one, dude, that one I know was like for you, one that.
Well, it's because it wasn't really sad. It was more happy, you know.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing, is like those kind of moments get me better than like the really sad moments.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's something wrong with me emotionally, but like really sad moments, I can kind of turn a switch off. It seems like it's like I'd rather not see sad things because it just makes me kind of in a bad mood for the rest of the day and kind of depressed, you know.
Yeah.
But like the actually like happy to the point of like tears moments, well, like I'll actually like I don't have a switch off for those, so I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's a really grand moment, you know. It's cool that happened.
Well, you heard it here, folks.
Like his mom called and stuff. I was like, oh, his mom's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You say you heard it here, folks. If you want to get Nick on emotional stuff, make it the happy emotional stuff. That's how you get him. Me,
I think I cried enough in the past for like things that just made me angry and stuff, to the point where it was just like I stopped caring as much about when things were really sad. I was just like, I mean, I care obviously, but it's like for me personally, they don't flip a switch. But it's like I dealt with a lot of things during those times by watching a lot of uplifting stuff, and some of that uplifting stuff got me to where like I would have like, you know, shivers and like tears and stuff from just the uplifting happiness of it. So
yeah,
maybe that's why I was like, I kind of flipped it more over to like I only really have a response to that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know if that's healthy or not. I've never been to therapy. I wouldn't know. Nobody ever professionally analyzed me like that. Well, I went once for anxiety, but it didn't really touch on any kind of things like that.
Well, I went to a therapist for like a month or so, and then I remembered that I probably said this before. I opened up to that therapist, and that therapist told me that what happened to me wasn't that big of a deal.
That's a shit therapist.
Well, it's because the therapist, when I told the therapist that it was a woman that did it to me, she, like, oh yeah, that's the other thing too, the therapist was a woman. She said, oh, that's not that bad.
It's because she's a piece of shit?
That's not that bad. And I'm just like, what do you mean? She's like, well, it's different if a man does it to a woman.
No.
So,
surprise, surprise. Therapists can be pieces of shit because they're people too.
Exactly.
People can be pieces of shit.
And
you
that
saw a piece of shit, not a therapist.
And that was the thing. I was like 14 when I opened up and I said that, and that's why I never said anything to anyone else, because the first time I told somebody, they told me it wasn't that bad. But in my heart, I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad what happened to me. And that's why I didn't say anything for a long time. Because it's like the person that I'm supposed to open up to about this, and they're supposed to help me through it, they were like, "No, it's not that bad."
I went to one therapy session because my anxiety got so bad in college that like I felt like I was gonna throw up whenever I would think about the possibility of dying one day.
Yeah.
Or the inevitability of dying one day, rather. And so I went to one session, and then right after that session, I got my first girlfriend, and then it went away. Because like I guess I was too happy and having too good of a time at that point to care anymore.
Yeah, I feel like the thing is, like, now that I have like a relationship in some way, I'm just like I guess I'm more afraid of losing that relationship, and it's making me anxious in that way. But I'll say this: I'm happier than I've been in a long time because of it. But
me being anxious about losing my longest relationship, I feel like is part of what fucked me over.
Yeah,
it's part of the reason I did lose it. So be careful about that.
Yeah, but all right, I guess that's going to do it, everybody. So this was the saddest moments in YouTube history by Sonny V2. Let us know what y'all think in the comments down below. Feel free to tell us what y'all thought of the video. And until next time, I'm Nate.
I'm Nick.
Be good people. Stay safe.